April 2nd, 2007. This is Passover or preparations for Passover, and going to get Mom making her her excellent matzo balls. Here is the recipe. And she's going to put it back into the plastic so that she doesn't get
schmutz on it. Schmutz on it. The word is schmutz.
So
we're going to put it back in its nice little plastic bag and zip it up so that it stays pretty clean. Okay, we start with 4 eggs, which we're going to separate. Okay. I'm going to put the whites in there, I guess. Put the whites in here. Get it right the first time. Whoops, we got a little bit of yolk in the white. However, I don't think that that's crucial because we're not making meringue. If you make a meringue, you want to eat yolk in your white, but here we can live with it. It'll beat up pretty well anyway. Separate 4 eggs, in which we keep getting yolk in.
And you've said that that's the separating the eggs is part of your success for getting floaters,
right,
rather
yes,
than sinkers.
Right, because you get a nice fluffy white, which we'll see after a while. Unfortunately, the eggs are not separated too easily because I'm wrapping them on the side of a plastic bowl, which is not as effective as a metal or glass bowl, but I have the plastic ones handy. Okay.
That one's doing a little better.
Yes. Whoops. Okay, now that's fine. All right. So now we have 4 eggs in a bowl, and the next step calls to beat the yolks with the chicken fat until they're, you know, the recipe, back over there. The recipe calls for fat. It doesn't specify what kind of fat, although, you know.
They were probably thinking schmaltz.
Well, yeah, and, you know, this is, however, what I do, since my soup is already made, is I just, got my tablespoon here, and I'm heading over to the soup pot, and I'm going to skim off the top of the soup, which gives me 4 tablespoons of, you know, fattish sort of soup liquid, and it works quite nicely.
And we already had some of the soup chicken for lunch, and it was delicious.
So since I skim off the fat anyway, and you know, the liquid here doesn't really hurt it very much. So we then neatly.
Oh, I believe that I must have picked the wrong battery because it's complaining. So I'm going to stop this for a moment, and you can continue. And
yeah, I'm just going to beat this up.
Okay.
Egg whites, and really, if you use regular fat, it's not nearly as thin as this, but it seems to work out okay. Now I need a measuring cup for 1.5 cups of matzo dough. Which is a little awkward because I have to dip the measuring cup in, so I'm doing a 1/4 cup at a time.
It's okay. Dad was using your cup measure to eat Cheerios.
He does that all the time. That one is dedicated to Cheerios. Okay, that's, let me not lose count here.
That's your second.
No, that was the first. This is the second.
Right.
Okay, right. So that's 1 cup. Okay, and we need, now this is 1/4 cup. That's only 1/2 cup in there. So we need 3. Okay, 4. That's 1 cup. And now we need 2 more to make
Cup and a half.
1.5 cups of the matzo meal. And then we blend it. Now the recipe calls for salt, but since I use my own soup, which is plenty salty, I don't add any salt to this.
Where did that recipe come from?
It came from a little book, which I still have, which the reason I transcribed it to this was because the book was really schmutzy and falling apart. But it's a little book of, little paperback book of recipes for all kinds of Jewish holidays. Okay, so now I'm mixing the matzo meal and egg yolks and fat together. And it's a really thick, disgusting sort of thing here.
Did your mother make matzo balls?
You know, it's interesting, but all the years of my growing up, we went to my grandmother's for one Seder, and to my Aunt Annie's for the second Seder. My mother didn't really make very many Seders over the years. My mother did Thanksgiving, but Seders were not. We were usually invited someplace. So my Aunt Annie made very famous matzo balls, which were real sinkers. They were like lead. My Aunt Annie's Seders used to go on forever. We went to the Bronx for them. So it was really quite an excursion.
Was that Grandpa's sister?
This Aunt Annie was Grandpa's sister, yes. Grandpa had 3 sisters, Ethel, Annie, and Ruth, and 1 brother, Louis.
For whom I'm named.
Yes. Okay, now the next piece of this calls for a cup of either hot water or a cup of soup. And the reason I wait until my soup is done is that I like to make it with the soup. So it's pretty hot because I just took it off the, I think the original recipe called for some parsley, but I don't bother because there is some parsley in the soup. So we get little bits of green. Anyway, I'm going to heat the soup just a teeny bit because it's pretty hot, but we want it a little bit hotter. So we'll do it for about 40 seconds. Should make it hot enough. And this is, at this point, like mud. The mixture of the fat and the matzo meal and the egg yolks. Pour the soup on it, it becomes nicer. I'm about to get out of whisk. Move my whisks over here. Egg beater, because I can't whisk it all that long. Start whisking this now, because that's the next step, is the egg whites. Getting it into a nice thing. Okay, the soup is hot enough, maybe even a little too hot, it doesn't matter. And we pour the hot soup into the matzo meal mixture here, and we mix it up nicely. Mash it a little bit with a fork. And get it all blended. This could probably be done with a mixer, but I've never done this with any kind of mechanical mixer at all. I think it's part of the secret is that it's all done by hand. You know, as in the olden days when everything was done by hand, especially at Passover, because you couldn't use your regular mixers and stuff. I think my mother had separate beaters and bowls for her mix master for Passover. My mother did used to make a really great sponge cake for Passover, which my brother still remembers with great pleasure, but it was a really excellent sponge cake because it was made with not too much matzo meal and lots of egg whites beaten up.
Whereas my mother made the Manischewitz mixes.
I don't even have any of those this year.
They're just awful.
Yeah, I know,
Except for the ones with the coffee cakes with the cinnamon toppings. The toppings were good. The rest of the
Yeah,
cakes.
well, I really don't bother.
No,
I
it's
don't buy any of those. I used to buy this muffin mix occasion. I don't buy any of that
yeah,
stuff
it's all
anymore.
terrible.
And all the desserts are awful except for the Barton's chocolate, which Marjorie is bringing later.
Oh, good.
And I have those silly marshmallows and the fruit slices.
The fruit slice. Everybody loves the fruit slices.
I only bought 2 boxes, but, whatever. I don't care if it all goes at the Seder. And since we only have one Seder, well, we have sort of half-assed one time. I usually have one Seder these days, so. Okay, now I'm going to. You need really good wrists for this, which I don't have anymore. So I do a kind of a double idea as long as I can stand it. And then it's starting to bubble. Give a and my steel bowls are probably better for this.
I can tilt it if that. No, I guess I was going to say I could tilt it, but I guess that wouldn't be a good idea.
No, it's fine. Get it to a nice foamy consistency, and then I'll whisk it a little bit more to add a little more volume. The hand egg beater works pretty well. But the year I did this recipe for the first time was funny because it was Dad's family that came to the first Seder that I did this for. And I was so excited with these matzo balls that were so gorgeous, and I floated around in the soup. And I couldn't get over it, and I kept exclaiming over my wonderful matzo balls, and they all sat there like, so what? Yes, it's just that my family doesn't really care about those things, which was true. I think Grandpa Perry was probably around for that. Certainly, often and Julie were kind friends. Grandma said he was never impressed by anything. Except she thought I picked good melons. Oh, she liked my salmon too. The poached salmon. Quite large.
I once heard she complimented you on your brisket, but the same way by cooking it a long time.
It wasn't the same recipe.